righty, here we go. How's everybody doing tonight? How's the quarantine working out? I think, according to the news, I don't know when it officially started. They said day 39 or something like that. So I don't know. That's and just on cue, Jack comes in with his Chewy wanting to play. Yeah. Anyway, welcome everybody to the CNC with Dave Gatton show. I hope. All right, go sit down. I hope some of you are not disappointed. I mean, we got. I had talked about doing a show live from the shop, and then I thought, okay, well, I'll take my laptop out there and another camera, and just have it on here basically like another guest, and I'll do like a remote, and I can, answer questions right here with screenshots or screen sharing. And then if there's a question out there, I can, that I need to go out there, I'll go out there. But it ain't happening tonight. I've just been too busy. My shop's in a big mess. I got too much stuff out there, and I just didn't have time to get all that set up. So we're going to do it right here. We'll still take whatever questions you might have. I know a lot of folks want to talk about the rotary axis thing, and I'm cool with that. I'll try to show, I can show some video clips if anybody's got questions, because that last video I did, when did it come out? Last Wednesday, pretty much explains my whole setup and stuff. So anywho, let me take a gander down through folks, see who's here.
Everybody's still saying howdy. How's it going? Folks, any questions regarding rotary, CNC, rotary lathe, fourth axis, etc.? Dave, would love to hear your
names. It has many names, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of people call it different things. All right. Well, it looks like we got the usual suspects out there. So welcome, everybody. Yeah, everybody just saying hello, looks like.
Yeah.
Appreciate the thumbs up, man. You already got a good start going there on that. So I appreciate that. If anybody is here that's new, their first time here, welcome. We're here every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Now, how can you tell the difference, Dave, between the two Greg Hamiltons? Which one's Hitch?
Hitch is the one that has the two G's at the end of his name. His is Gregg.
Okay, in that case, Hitch, yes, I'm completely caught up. In case you're referring to the hobby boxes, I'm caught up. In fact, I'm 2 ahead, so I'm good. And
yeah, that's how I tell. See this one, that's Hitch. And of course the avatar gives it away too, the bass guitar there. So yeah, that's going to give it away. All right, let's see. I don't see any questions at all. I guess we can wrap this one up then.
Sounds good.
Oh, by the way, I want to mention about the challenge, hence the little thing going across the screen there.
We did get a question, so I'm ready when you are.
Okay. We're still running the quarantine, let me say it right, the 2020 quarantine CNC challenge. And I got a video earlier from Greg Euler. I hope I'm saying that name right. I think that's how you say it. But I haven't had a chance to do anything with it. I haven't even watched it yet because I've been so busy. But and he did send some project pics, so I'm going to show them here in a little bit. I did get those moved over, and we'll take a look at those here in a little bit. Like I said, anytime you want to show off some project or something you've done, you don't have to wait for a special what we call the show and tell show. You can send it anytime. We'll show whatever it is.
Heck, Dave will create a show and tell. Dave will create a show and tell around you, and even invite you to the show if you have enough show and tells.
yeah, if you got a whole bunch of stuff and you want to come on and share that your technique on how you did something, or
Happy to have you.
kind of like Russ Meadows did the other week.
Yep.
That was just last week, wasn't it? He was on.
That was last week, and I'll say something to all of you that are a little shy, or maybe some of you, like Russ was telling me, I don't know. It feels kind of like I'm being vain or something. If I no, not at all. It was like pulling teeth trying to get Russ to come onto the show, because he was shy, but we got a lot out of it. I mean, all of us. We got a lot out of him sharing his abilities, or just what he's done, even if they overlap a lot of ours. And that's what we're going for here. I mean, please, if you do anything, I don't care how bad you might think it is. Trust me, we won't think it's that bad. In fact, most everybody will be impressed, and it's a gift to us to share your talents. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, the challenge is still going on officially through the 30th, unofficially pretty much right up until we announce the winners. Although, like I said, the reason I say officially on the 30th of this month is on May the 1st, I will have a form up on the website, davegatton.com, and that will be where any of you folks that are out there watching, in fact, I hope all of you do, go there and vote for your favorite video. My buddy Jack's he's in rare form tonight. Yeah, so I think we've got, I've lost count now, 20 or 21. The one I got from Greg a while ago, that may be 21. I'm not sure. But there's a ton of good ones. Well, they're all good, really. Yeah, I hope after May the 1st, or on May the 1st or thereafter, you'll go and vote for your favorite video. And I can't wait to see who gets the most votes, because there are a bunch of good ones. All righty. Well, I've seen a few questions scroll by. Javi, are you logging them in?
Yes. Here's a question for you. Oh, by the way, Hitch had a message retracted. I don't know. He must have said something that the machine automatically retracted.
Yeah, sometimes there's nothing at all, and they knock them out.
Yeah, okay. So, a Jim, what was his name? Here, hang on a second. Here, Tom P61 asked, how much swing clearance do you have on your setup, Dave? There you go.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Tom P61. Right now, the way I have it, I have, everything rides on a 3/4 inch piece of plywood board. And then when I cut the little, I don't know what you'd call it, the little sliding plate, I milled down a 1/4 inch into a piece of 3/4. So that left about a 1/2 inch of height. And then I put another 3/4 inch on top of that. So each side has spacers of about an inch and, what would that be? An inch and a quarter?
Inch and a quarter.
Yeah, inch and a quarter. Mm-hmm. And so the other side, of course, I made them where they match. So, but now when you take the measuring tape and hold it down against that base and bring it up to the point on the live center, it is just a hair or so over 3.5. So
you can make a 7-inch bowl.
I think I could
7-inch product.
Yeah, round thingy. Yeah. So I think I feel pretty good. I could do a 7-inch thing. Now, of course, if you start out with something square, you can't do that. And I'd have to, if I was going to try to max it out, I'd have to take my square blank to the table saw and try to, turn it into a octagon or something.
And to get the. Before I get to the next question, I just saw one pop up that's what's the biggest piece that a rotary can spin once rounded on a Gatton? And Dave just basically answered it, because it's roughly 7 inches is the clearance you have on a Gatton. And
now let's talk about another thing, since that's what I can spin around. Okay.
Yeah.
The way I currently have it. And I could always come back and add more spacers if I wanted to go even bigger. But you got to remember, you've got to be able to get the spindle
bit down. Right.
You got to have room. Now, my setup, let me see if
yeah, that's one thing folks don't keep in mind. In CNCing, I see a lot of people going, "Oh, you only have 7 inches of clearance. I'm going to need, I'm going to build a taller upright so I can get 20 inches. What for?" So now your machine is dropping down 14 inches because the bit height is what limits you, and you're not going to be cutting with a 3-inch bit. That's just ridiculous. They tend to break. They tend to, so really, if you're looking at a 2 to 3 inch bit, then
okay,
then,
yeah. All right.
you don't need more than 3 or 4 inches clearance, and you certainly don't need more than 3.5 inches on radius for a rotary. I mean,
I'm trying to find. I should have got this set up because.
Keep looking for it. I'll keep scanning for questions if you like.
Okay. Yeah, because I want to talk about, and I want to find a picture so that they can see what I'm talking about here. Let's see.
Yeah, and they were. Hitch was asking, what is the 4th axis? Z. Well, no. The 4th axis is whatever you want it to be. You got to think of it as in 2 different ways. Let's talk Cartesian coordinates to make it simple. You got X is side to side. You got Y is further and forward, back and forth, and you got Z is up and down. Okay, that's X, Y, Z. Now on a Gatton, you have 2 axes running together, so it's really on the same axis, which is on the Y. So you have a Y motor and an A motor, but that's still considered the Y axis. Then the 4th axis, in terms of rotary, because there's different 4th axes. In terms of rotary, the 4th axis is you could just call it the 4th axis. You can unplug your Y because you're not going to need it, and plug it into the 4th axis, and now your Y is locked in over the piece. Your Y now spins this rather than moving the gantry forward and backward, and the X continues to go left and right, and the Z continues to go up and down. And I'll let Dave talk before I get into the 4th axis of a robot turning, because then you have the 4th axis of a robot and the 5th axis, which can actually, on the Z box, if you will, on the bracket that holds the actual, but now we're talking robotics, on the bracket that holds the spindle or the router, you can actually have it turn it, rotate it one way and then another way, and even a third way. So now you have 3 more axes. So you could have a 6-axis robot, and then that's basically getting too complex for
the place where I used to
DIY.
They had a welding robot. Mm-hmm. It was crazy because it went every kind of which way.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between programming something that's 6-axis versus 3 or 4,
Yeah, the paths are so intricate and so complicated because you have to program, if your piece is locked in one place, you have to program this machine to go in 3 dimensions and aiming at a specific dimension.
Okay, I think I'm getting some. Yeah, okay, I'm getting some stuff ready here. Let me.
All right.
Let's see if I've got. Where'd that other one go?
And so the difference, while you're doing that, the main difference between having 3-axis, not talking about lathes here, but 3-axis on a CNC and 4 or 5 or 6-axis, like the actual spindle moving, is that you're limited because you can only come at it from one direction. Like the lathe, for instance, you have the thing spinning, and you can go left and right, and you can go up and down. But imagine if you had something and you tried to do a hole through it, you can only carve from the top middle of the piece at any location. So it limits you as to, it doesn't limit much, but it limits you as to what you can carve.
Yeah, I got something queued up here, so let me screen share, and I'll try to show you a couple of things.
Yep.
All right. This is my rotary axis setup the way it is. Now, the thing cuts off right up here at the top where you can't see. But this is normally how I run my spindle in that bracket, in the mount. And you notice I've got several inches down.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that I've got an end mill there, and I'm still way above this material. This piece of material is 1.5 inches square.
Yep.
And so you can see I've got plenty of room to get up there. Now, let me turn that one off for a second, because it only lets me do one of these at a time. And I want to show you the other one that I had here, now that I know where it's at. Okay, this one's a little, well, let me show this picture. This is actually video clips that I'm showing. But this is when I was doing that bottle that's right back here behind me where my finger is.
Yep.
That's 16 inches, and that square block started out as a 4.5 inch square.
Oh, so that's the big bottle. That's the 16-inch bottle?
Well, it's
the small bottle?
It's the big bottle as of right now. There's going to be a bigger.
Okay.
Bottle. Okay. There's one in the works.
Oh, what have we started?
But anyway, if you look at this one compared to the last shot I had, you notice that I have loosened these and moved my spindle up. Now, and also I have a 1/2 inch, because I'm doing the rounding toolpath here.
Yep. So
having this square in there, when it turns, where the high points are sticking up, that's about 6 3/8, 6 5/16, something like that.
See, that's a very good point, Dave. Your spindle sticks out a good 2 inches at least or so from the gantry, so you can actually have a piece taller than the bottom rail of the gantry because it's never going to cross over it.
Yeah, and that's why I've kind of mentioned, when I keep seeing these people doing those cutouts and stuff, and I'm like, I don't really think you need that.
Yeah,
and I would rather have a good solid table all the time for my router, and not have to worry about setting a piece back in there. And now is it going to be flat and level? And you know what I mean? But everybody's got their own way of doing it, and it don't matter to me. But I just don't see the need for that cutout thing. And plus, if you do it like this, you could make that thing the whole width of your, whatever your table is. I mean, you lose a little bit because of the headstock and a little bit because of the tailstock, but you can still run a really long piece.
Yeah.
if you make that thing the whole, and really you could make it wider because it's never going to come forward and hit it.
Right. You can make it as wide as you can make it wider than the actual gantry.
You could make this part and this part hang off the side, make that where the table ends here and here. You could do, I mean, really long stuff but you can't do that when you make that little cutout thing. But anyway, I wanted to show this picture because you notice I can get plenty of height, and I've shoved this up there. If you look real close, I don't know if you can see that mark right there. That's just where when I have it slid down, I take a Sharpie and I mark, and that's my normal place where I have it setting.
Yep.
And so there's probably about 2 inches right there that I've raised it up. And now let me move to a different.
We've got a few more questions here. Darren Birds asked, "Is it possible to tile with a 4th axis to do long posts for a swing?" Absolutely. Just like you would tile. If you call it tiling, it's just like you would do it with a regular lathe. You could cut a tenon, and then all you'd have to do is you'd have to manually drill the piece, the tenon, the other opposite of the tenon.
The mortise.
Thank you. You have to cut the round hole, the mortise, but you can create a bunch of pieces and stack them on top of each other and make a very, very long pole, if you will, or a post. Again, the tough part with you can create the tenon easily. That's where a lathe comes in, as far as a regular lathe. When it comes to the mortising, you're not going to be able to do that on this machine that I know of.
All right, so here's another shot, and here I've already got that 4.5 inch square. Now it's round, and I'm doing the roughing pass. So you can see I've still got the spindle pushed up extra high, just because this is a much bigger thing. Now, like I said, when that first picture I showed, if I'm running something that's 1.5 inches or a couple inches, I don't need to shove that up. I can actually lower it back down to that mark right there. Here, you can actually see that mark a little better in this one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm getting plenty of height with the setup I've got. And I don't know if I'd ever turn anything bigger than 7 inches diameter. My goal when I got this rotary axis and set it up was to just make cool stuff, not necessarily big cool stuff.
Yeah.
So,
what Dean was asking regarding the quarantine challenge, do we vote for just first place or first, second, third? How's the voting going to be?
No, everybody will get one vote and they'll all fall into place. Whoever gets the second number of votes, second most number of votes will be second, and so forth. Yeah, you don't need to vote for first, second, third, or anything like that. Just vote for your absolute favorite. And I can tell you're going to have a hard time.
Yep.
Narrow it to one, because there are a bunch of them. Yeah.
Yep. Let me check here. I'm scanning. Okay. This I don't understand. Out of ADD or out of add on your out of add-on. Oh, out of add-ons for your CNC, which is the most important? Okay. Add-ons. Which add-on do you particularly think is the most useful? I guess Robert Sams is asking.
Well, I would have to ask him, I guess, what you consider an add-on, because like to me, things like a drag chain and limit switches and stuff like that are an add-on, because you can run a machine without those things. But for other people, they don't count those because they just think, well, that's a must-have. You got to have that. So I'm not sure how to answer that question.
And Steven Zumbach is asking, the garage work listed on the site is the 48 by 48 1999. Is that correct? The price?
I'd have to go look at the website.
Probably
I've only got 3 or 4 of those left, and
sounds about right.
I don't know. I'd have to go look. I mean,
how are you prepping the end for the chuck?
Oh, that's a good question. With these right here, I've started changing the way I do things.
That was Tom P61 again.
Hey, Tom P61. All right. Well, what I've done here, you know how I'm always wanting to use those little tiny pieces of scrap that are left over in a skeleton. Well, now I've found a new use for them besides hold down clamps.
Nice.
Now I will, if you look real close in the chuck, what that is a 1.5 inch round circle of 3/4 inch plywood that I cut out. And then I find the center of this big piece. And again, I do this back when it's square. And then I glue that little round knob, if you want to call it that, in there so that chuck has something to grab a hold of. Now, what I've started doing more recently, and if I'd known you were going to ask that question, I would have brought it in here. But what I've started doing now is, because I've got another 4.5 inch by 16 glued up, ready to go. Well, what I did is I cut a donut, if you will. Jack, I cannot play, buddy. I cut a 4.5 inch donut that's got a 1.5 inch hole in the middle of it. So it's a ring, 4.5 inch diameter ring with a 1.5 inch thing. And I did it 4.5 inches because when I glue my square up, it's 4.5 inches. So now I don't even have to do any thinking when I center it up. I can just take it and feel with my fingers that it's flush on the 4 sides, glue that on, and then I use the chuck, because it works the other way where you can grab the inside of a circle and pull out.
Yep.
So what I'm doing now is whenever I have a piece of scrap 3/4 plywood, I'm cutting various donuts and just circles. Here's another one I did. Let me turn this off here for a second. Here's another one I did where this square is 1.5 inches and this is just 1.5 inches thing. So I can just put it on there, and then that gives me something to grab to without having to worry about trying to grab a square thing.
And Leo Steger was asking a simple one here. How do you keep the y-axis from moving the end that is disconnected? The end, in other words, the Y and the A. How do you keep?
What's going to make it move?
Well, that's what I was getting at, Leo.
There's nothing to turn those lead screws, so it won't move.
Right. Now, if you have,
I mean, you can clamp it if you were afraid. If you had something different than a lead screw.
Right. If you have a setup where both the Y and the A are paired to the same stepper driver, well, then disconnect it. I mean, disconnect both the Y and the A. So it's that simple. If it's disconnected, it's not moving. And you're connecting in its place the rotary axis, because you can, unless you want to do a rig with a bunch of switches, you're physically disconnecting one and connecting the other. That's it.
Now, Clyde, the one I have on there is a 4-jaw. So I could leave it as a square, but I just like, because especially on a lot of these pieces, I'm coming right out here to the end or pretty close. And you always kind of hold your breath when you see this thing whizzing out here near the chuck.
The end of the chuck.
I just like to have something that kind of spaces it off a little bit, and a good solid ring will do it. Just kind of like I would do on the lathe, wood lathe.
And John Althafer was asking, have you tried a 4-pole double throw switch? And I was actually considering wiring one of those up for future hobby boxes, but or for a special adapter. But
he might have been the one that commented. Some people commented on the video because I have just that terminal block, and I just take the 4 wires off from here and move it down here. But it's the difference of do I want to go over there and do a switch or a plug that might take a couple of seconds, or take maybe 30 seconds to move those wires? It's not really saving me a whole lot of time. And once you set this up, this isn't something you're going to set up, run something, then pull it off, and then do something else, and then set it up again. You set this up, you're going to be doing this is kind of like 3D carving. You set up, you set up a job on this, and it's going to be running a while. So it's not that big a deal to me to have to take those 4 wires loose, move it to the other set of lugs, and tighten. It takes about 30 seconds the way it is.
Yeah. And how often, when you think about it, when you're setting up your rotary, I mean, the fact that you're completely you're bolting this down, you're setting the distance and all that, that's 10 times more difficult setup than just unplugging a cable and plugging another one in. And how are you going to be switching back and forth constantly? If you are, you'd be better off making a separate dedicated unit. This is something that, you'll do for a week, and maybe you'll get tired of it, or maybe you'll do a few projects and then you'll switch to a different, back to the CNC. You shouldn't have to be switching the tools back and forth on a regular basis.
Somebody too, on one of the videos, they commented about, well, why don't you just put Molex connectors on everything? Well, I might put connectors one day if I really felt like it was, taking a lot of time for me to swap this out, but I wouldn't put Molex connectors anywhere. I don't really like having any Molex connectors on there because
don't use Molex connectors.
They'll burn up and short out a wire and stuff, and
they're horrible. They're horrible.
Yeah, they're not the best. Now, for what I'm using this for, that connector's not moving around, but I'm still going to have to make sure I blow it out every once in a while and don't get any dust in there, because it will eventually. And I don't know if you look close in that video when I'm holding that up, you can see that one end is kind of brown because it's been getting warm.
Yep.
So.
And Dean's asking if you considered upgrading your Bob to a 5-axis and just having your 4th-axis rotary set up permanently. Again, when he has to, I'll answer this one for you, Dave. He's got to physically put the axis, the thing there. So when he puts it away, he's got to disconnect it anyway. So there's no point in having it permanently.
Yeah, if like right now, I have 4 drivers. Well, you can't really see it, but this board back here, that's where all my control stuff's mounted. So right now I have 4 drivers back there, but only 3 of them are running because I've got this. So if I did what you said and added a 5th driver, then I'd have 2 drivers back there sitting there not doing anything, because I'm only using 3 to run this thing. You got the Z, the A, and the X, and that's it. That's all I'm ever going to have running this. So.
Yeah. Jim says use trailer connectors. Dust proof, easy on off. Yeah, he uses trailer connectors for all his things.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of aviation connectors, but then again, it takes a little work if you don't know how to solder on them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it takes me 30 seconds to move those 4 wires, and it works fine. So unless and I know I'm not going to be jumping back and forth. That's
the bottom
for me, because I have multiple CNCs. I've got I've got 2 or 3 other CNCs I can use.
And I'll settle this argument. Many roads lead to Rome. Do it whichever way you want and whichever way makes you happy, because they'll all work.
Yeah.
They'll all produce
there's nothing wrong if somebody's got a setup where you don't want to have to fool with that, and you get a 5th driver, that's great. But when you're running this type of a setup, it's only going to use 3 axes, so you're only using 3 drivers.
Yep. Let's see.
Any other questions out there? I saw a whole bunch of them earlier, I thought, but maybe we're getting to them. Oh, here's one. Is your cylinder already hollow? Your insert.
Yeah. I sort of
match it
answered that one. There was a whole conversation on that was on the tiling issue, tiling the posts, and there were a couple of comments after that also talking about if you have the hollow cylinder then you can easily create a tenon and for the next one and so on and so forth. Another way of doing it is, as long as you have the center, is drill all the centers and just create dowels. Just do short 2-inch dowels, 1 inch in each side, boom, and you've basically shoved all the pieces together, glued them all together, and it created one post. I mean, it's.
But for the record, this isn't hollow.
Yeah.
So it's solid.
Definitely solid. Yeah.
Okay.
We lost another message to YouTube.
Okay. Now, are you looking on the StreamYard?
Oh yeah. Let me check on the. No,
because I'm not seeing any getting taken off.
I'm sorry. John Olthafer, Lazio Woodworks. You might want to rephrase your message because something in it made YouTube retract it.
Well, let's see. Do you know the timestamp of what that one was?
It just came up. It should be popping up any second. Let me see if it's popped up on ours.
Okay.
It hasn't popped up yet.
Okay. Okay.
No, it did.
Notice
it did.
It says here, I was just afraid of messing up plug connections.
It's in between making memories and Dean's, so it didn't pop up at all in. It never got to the StreamYard post.
Oh, okay. Maybe YouTube knocked it out before.
Yeah, before it got there.
Here. All right. All right. Wouldn't you possibly want your y-axis connected to be able to machine a flat area? There's no y-axis movement in this type of setup.
He's
probably, y-axis.
He's what he's probably referring to is if you wanted to, let's say, have a flat area within that circle, kind of like the motors have a D, have a slice.
Like a D shape, yeah.
Like a D shape, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm guessing because there's no other reason to have the y-axis.
Yeah, I just, for most rotary axis, however it's set up, because some machines have the rotary axis running parallel to the y-axis. So the x-axis swings over and then it doesn't move anymore.
Troy,
it stays on the center line. So.
Troy said to make a square peg, and it just occurred to me, what would make a great video, Dave? If you take a big 6-inch square piece, all right, make a video of you rounding the whole thing out, and then activate the y-axis and make a flat part, turn it 90 degrees, another flat part, and turn it back into a square.
Yeah. Rob says, he says, I think he is referencing true 4-axis machining. Yeah. But that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just doing the rotary thing all on that center line of the axis. I'm not trying to do anything that fancy.
Yeah, he said yes exactly to my comment of like the D to make a flat area in your thing.
I mean, would I even be able to program that with Vectric? I don't think so.
Well, it would have to be done multiple. I mean, you'd have
to be done different.
You could conceivably create the circular piece that you have there and let's say you want to take a flat part out of it, at that point, leave the rotary locked where it is, and then turn the Gatton back into a Gatton. I mean, turn the.
Oh yeah, I could do it.
Go
that
back
way.
to a regular CNC and do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, this isn't meant to be a 4-axis setup. It's a 3-axis setup. It's just X, Z, and A. I noticed somebody. I was waiting for somebody to say something. Brian finally got it here. He says, "Nice piece of paper over the belt."
I saw that. You get problems with sawdust, I guess.
The reason I did this, when I'm doing this roughing pass, and this, by the way, folks, this is just construction lumber 2-bys that were cut up and then glued together to get a square. And this stuff, when you're doing the roughing pass with an end mill, it will sometimes peel off a big, like if you look, some of these chips are big, and plus it'll pull off like a big splinter.
Yeah.
And it was really piling up, it flings it everywhere because, you can see all this dust everywhere. And I was worried about a big chunk somehow bouncing and getting on the inside part of that belt and messing things up. So I just put that little piece of paper on there with some painter's tape as a deflector. So yeah, Brian's got the keen eye. He spotted my little on the fly.
Yep, paper thing. Yep.
But it worked. It kept all the stuff off of the belt.
You're a lot more practical than I am. If it were me, I would probably spend a day and a half designing 5 square pieces on the CNC to make a box that would fit over that. Something that I could probably do on the table saw in 2 minutes. And I'll just over design the heck out of it.
What was that? I mean, what was you saying in the first part of that? I missed it. What was you saying?
That you make things simple. If it were me, I would over design the heck out of it.
Oh, simple. Yeah. Well, when I got ready to do the, it's hard enough to get all this stuff lined up, and you want to get it as accurate as you can.
Yeah.
So, the best way to get stuff is to cut it the same size and flush it up. That's why this, like right here, you can see this is a 3/4 piece of plywood.
Yeah.
This is a 3/4 piece of plywood, but it's had that 1/4 inch milled away at the bottom.
Right.
And they're the same size. The top one obviously doesn't have to be the same width, but I made it that way on purpose just so it'd be easy to get them flushed up. Same thing over here. This doesn't need to be near this big, but I made both of these pieces flush so they would fit flush with this board, and it made everything super easy to line up.
Well, that's not what I was referring to, the paper piece that I would probably create. I would probably spend 2 days to reproduce that out of wood and go do something ridiculous.
Well, as I was standing over here, on this end one time as it was running, because I was filming and had the camera shooting down the length of the thing. And that's when I noticed all the stuff coming. So I was sitting there looking. I'm like, yeah, I should probably make some kind of cover or something. But I thought, you know what? This thing's going to be running a while. I ain't got time to be thinking at it. Let me just grab a piece of paper and just, make a little umbrella like to keep the chips off of it. And that worked fine. And now that I've done that, I probably won't ever build a little box to put over it. If it ever gets where it's spitting chunks that way, I'll just put another piece of paper on it.
Yep. Let's see. Take a photo. How can I take a photo and convert it to a DXF file? I would go to Mark Lindsay's channel on Sundays and ask him. Basically, it would be the bit trace option in Vectric. But that's software related, and he can definitely help you on that front. Highly recommend Mark Lindsay's channel. Let's see.
Yeah, and don't think you're going to pull it into any Vectric, VCar Pro, Aspire, whatever, and click bitmap trace and magically have a perfect DXF. There's no such thing. There'll be some kind of cleanup. Sometimes if you get a really good clean file
Yeah.
to go in, you have less cleanup, but you're always going to have to clean up.
Yeah, it's for a complex picture. For a simple black and white picture, it might be easy, but for something grayscale or picture or anything, you're talking. It could be an entire day or two of. It could be very, very complicated, complex, and working a lot with. In fact, some of my. If you look at my. If you go to my channel and go on Learn CNC with Javi, I do have a couple of old. 2-3 years ago, but it's all the same. Teaching about converting files to bitmap and working with the nodes and tweaking and stuff. So, so Marcelo is asking, Dave, would it not be easier on the machine if you cut the square into an octagon on the table saw first before turning it on your fourth axis?
Well, yeah. When you say, yeah, it would. But here's the thing.
It would be easier if your table saw is set up.
Yeah. First, I'd have to go out to my shop in back because that's where my table saw is. It's not in this shop, my garage, where the CNC is, this particular CNC. Second, I'd have to clear off the junk that's probably sitting on top of my table saw. And then I'd have to, saw the corners off. And I'd still have to do a bit of a rounding pass. And the rounding pass, the rounding toolpath, I should say, really doesn't take that long. So if you got to put, if you're cutting off the corners, yeah, it's going to save you a little bit of time, but you've just spent time walking out to the other shop to do it. To me, it's easier just to go ahead if you got to create a rounding pass anyway, because Vectric does not have a way to create a rounding pass toolpath for something you've cut into an octagon. It's going to start out as a square anyway.
Yeah.
So it's going to be probably cutting air for some of the time.
And I'll say one thing. If you're like me and you're like in the CNC and have little space for anything else and have only the CNC machine set up, I don't cut squares because I don't know how to use a table saw or because I believe my CNC will do a better job, maybe more accurate. But I cut squares on my CNC because it takes too long to yank out the table saw into the backyard, set it up, and out when I could just program a square and I'm done.
See, here's another one that's the same thing. You're absolutely correct. A lathe and a skew would make short work of this.
Yep.
It would. But again, I'd have to go to my shop, the other shop, uncover my lathe, move stuff around, get it set up just to turn this round. And even then, it's not going to be as perfectly round as it is with this.
And it won't carve Corona very, very accurately. Or you got to be really fast with the skew.
Yeah, well, I think he was talking about just going from square.
I know, with to the round. You had a question here earlier from Flint Bone. It's halfway up the or up on top of the. Said, I just got my Z-axis front and back plates installed today. When I checked for plumb to the table, I'm about 1/16 off. Should I adjust this? And if so, what is the best way to adjust it? Thanks.
You're 1/16 off.
That is now. Are you saying, Flint, that your front plate and your back plate are off by a 16th higher?
Well,
what is he talking about? Because plumb is up and down.
I mean, you'll want to fix it, but for me to tell you how to fix it, I'd
have to see.
It'd be hard for me to know. I need to see which way it's off. And now, the washers that you use to space out your V groove bearings and everything, are you sure that they are the same all the way up? Because if you get some that are thicker, it could make a difference one way or another, kick it in or out. And you could also use that to, if you can't figure out any other way to straighten it, that would be another way you could do it, is by
Add a washer. Yeah. Add a
changing
washer.
the washers combinations to get it right.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of things you want to check, but you do want to fix it. However, whatever the problem ends up being, because the more things you can fix now before you're building it,
the smoother it'll run.
That little intro video that I play at the start of this every week, that's part of one of the pictures you see is that clip where I'm taking that big square and setting it on the table and putting it up against the Z box to make sure that it's square or perpendicular to the table.
All right, let's see here. Let's see where I'm at.
There was that question. I was hunting for it, and I scrolled.
It was way up. Kevin mentioned that I missed one, so I went back and looked for it. Let's see here. Lathe and askew. We got to that one. Hey Dave, I was wondering, on the make and design you did, can you set the feed rates to match your machine?
Okay, now the design and make is where I purchase the 3D model. So I'm putting whatever feeds and speeds on it that I want.
Right.
It's just the model. It's real easy to do. You of course there's Vectric and Aspire and all that comes with a bunch of free stuff. But then I think the model he's talking about is the one that I purchased from Design and Make.
You could set your own feeds and speeds on any model.
I mean, you can scale it. You can make it bigger or smaller. You can make it higher, stick up more or get down in the wood more, So you can do a lot of things with it, even with Vectric, for compared to Aspire.
Yeah, Flint was talking about plumb to the table, 90 degrees to the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, if it was me, I'd probably start checking my washers and make sure that they're.
But wait a second, the table itself, because I mean, check, see if it's plumb to the rails, because the table itself, I mean, you're going to have a spoil board on it, and you're going to.
Is it plumb when you put it up against the gantry, not the front plate or anything?
Yeah, because the surface of the table.
You should really check all that as you go. You should put a square and check to see if your gantry's square to the table. Then you should, when you put your front plate carriage on, you should check that, and then you should check it again when you put your Z box on. All of that should be square.
And if it's all square, I mean, it could be a simple matter of put the spoil board on and surface the spoil board, and you're going to find that it's perfectly level throughout. Like Dave said, check the square as you go, and you'll have less. Well, you won't have any issues to begin with, but. And sometimes, I mean, I know from experience, from other people's experience, because other people have mentioned this quite a bit. When they move their table, everything goes out of plumb, because the floor is not level, the floor is bumpy. You have to shim on a certain piece. I mean, unless you have a water level with a hose and it's exact to a 10,000th of an inch, it's kind of tough to, every time I move my table, every time I bring my table up or down, it's slightly off. It'll all still function perfectly fine. And the way I personally cut things, I always start with a surface plane on every one of my pieces. That's just me. or I check if it's a plywood that I'm working on. Then I'm either cutting through an entire piece of plywood, or I'm using a solid wood and I'm V carving it. But I always surface that first. So no matter what, that offers me a little bit of leeway as far as how off my table can be. It really doesn't matter, but it's always off the tiniest amount every time I move it.
Okay, Clyde was talking about the one with Jesus. Yeah, that's the one of the design and make things that I purchased. But yeah, it's just the 3D model. You can set it up, feeds and speeds however you want.
Yeah, the Z box is the important one, like Clyde said.
Here's another good point too, Wilson made. When you grab a square, make sure it's a good one, because sometimes you drop them on the floor or something, you can knock them out of square, and then you'll wonder why everything you check is out of square.
It's funny.
Not, it's just the.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, because the other day I was cutting out some pieces, and I used a DeWalt miter saw that I have now. That DeWalt miter saw has been moved and dropped, and it's so old that the zero on the miter saw is off by half a degree. So every time I set it to zero, it cuts at half a degree. And so then I wonder why all my pieces, because that adds up after a while. You put 5 or 6 pieces together, and you're 2 degrees off. So yeah, always double check. But yeah, Clyde is right. If you make sure the rails for the Z box are square, or it'll drill at an angle, and then you're going to have to be. And then what you're going to end up doing is shimming it, and then you're compensating. That's why I don't like tramming. I'm not a fan of tramming at all. Make sure your box is straight and true, and that's it. If you start tramming, you're adjusting for an adjustment. And that's just going to cause a problem down the line. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and basically, I guess in a nutshell, you have to check everything along the way. When you find something that's not right, don't say, well, let me go ahead and do this other part of the build and I'll come back and fix that. No, fix that first, then move on to the next part of the build. And I try to emphasize that in my build videos. Is you'll see me checking stuff, checking it front ways, back ways, all over the different place. Move the gantry to the back of the table and check it. Move it to the front of the table and check it. All different kinds of things, because it's just, it depends. If you're doing certain projects, it may not matter if you're out a little bit, because it's wood. We get that. But still, you might as well try to build it as accurate as you can.
Yep. And let's see, who was it that was just saying the washers? Troy was saying looks like a washer spacing issue. Now, that could very well be. How many of you guys have ever used those little coin wrappers and put $20 worth of quarters and check 2 of them, and they're completely off by half a quarter? I've done that with washers as well. I've had pieces where I put 3 washers on one, 3 washers on the other, and one washer is slightly bent, or 2 of them are bent, and then all of a sudden the sizes are completely off. They add up. So I don't want to say take a caliper to everything, but try to narrow down where the issue could be.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, my timer went off a few minutes ago, and we're right at an hour, so we'll start wrapping this one up. Anybody got any last-minute questions? Throw them in there, and we'll call this a night. And if anybody's got any more, rotary axis stuff or whatever, I like I said, I'll try to do one of these lives from the shop. But it just wasn't going to happen today. I'm just too busy with filling orders and got too much stuff going on in the shop. It's way too messy.
And if I could take
a bunch of stuff out there, like cameras and monitors and microphones and all that stuff. So,
and if I can take a second to plug my Hobbybox controller, Dave, I'm all caught up with orders. So, folks, it's usually about a 2-week turnaround at this point, 3 weeks on the outside. So, with COVID and all that, the stuff gets in later. Hopefully, it'll only be a week soon. But if you do need a CNC controller and you're building a Gatton CNC, then by all means, come by the store and put yourself on the list. And first week of May, they're going to be the next batch is going to be shipped. I mean, shipped to you. So we're looking. That's the fastest ever. Ask the people that bought them February 14th and got them in April.
Yeah. I like I said at the top of the show, I hope everybody's doing well in this quarantine thing. It's kind of weird because I thought that after a while, maybe not right away, but after a while, things would kind of slow down for me because I figured, people run out of money. They're not going to buy anything for me. Well, Uncle Sam, I guess, took care of that because I have been busier ever since those stimulus checks started kicking in. Mm-hmm. I've been, in elbows. So, yeah.
Likewise. Now I've gotten the process to the point that now I can actually make a video and a few training videos. So expect to see some of those in the near future. As it's nice. It's these stimulus checks are wonderful. Pay off your bills? Heck no. Buy more stuff.
Heck no. Buy stuff. Heck yeah. Yeah. Let's send Dave some of it. Here, let's get a kit. Yeah. And I appreciate everybody that's buying because I haven't so far. My bank account has not been stimulated. So other than with your stimulus checks. So
there you go.
I appreciate everybody that's still buying stuff. But anyway, I guess we're going to wrap this one up. Russ Meadows says Mark Lindsay CNC.
Yep.
I'm not sure why he's saying that, but yeah, Mark Lindsay CNC, the place to go for Vectric tutorials. And Dean, I had your question up there. I got a video coming out. I've got it finished, but I have not uploaded it yet. I'll be doing that as soon as I get off here now, and it'll be coming out in the morning. So go check it out.
And for those of you that I have a request for those of you that have received because there's a couple dozen of you out there that have received my hobby box and hopefully are finished with your CNC soon. Because I know you put like me, put things off to the last minute. Please shoot a video, send some pictures. I'd love to see my babies working and out there. It would really. It would mean a lot to me. So send me some stuff out there.
Yeah. All righty, guys. Well, let me get rid of this silly picture we've been looking at all night. I'm probably tired of looking at that thing. And let me see if I can find that magic button. So anyway, everybody, you still got time to get a challenge video in. Greg Euler, was he out there? I don't know if he was out there.
I didn't see him out here.
Okay. Well, anyway, if he's out there, I'll take a look at his and get it added to the playlist and put on the website. And please, everybody, after May the 1st, go to the website, davegatton.com, and vote for your favorite. Because it's going to be the people's choice. I'm not doing no judging. I may just start doing them all this way, even the Christmas challenge this next year. I may just do it that way. So, all right, guys, we'll see y'all later. Everybody have a good one. And we are out of here. See ya.